This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I'm in Washington, D.C. this week, the capital of corruption. A dark cloud hangs over this city. I'll tell you something. It's such a bizarre city that you can't even get a car. You know, I rent a car to get around here, and you can't even find a parking spot that's big enough to park your car. Okay, and that tells you everything, because this city's not big enough to represent the American people. It's kind of metaphoric. It doesn't represent the American people. It represents itself. The growth is unbelievable. You go to Southwest, one building after another, condominiums, apartments, hotels. You go to Boston, it's become a major city. It's unreal. The amount of money that is pouring into this city, which corrupts the political establishment, who works for the money but doesn't work for the American people, is an absolute outrage. It's criminal in and of itself. And that's what got me to do what I do many, many years ago. Even before I started Judicial Watch in 1994, I saw how money was influencing results with regard to my clients, with regard to judges, with regard to magistrates. It offended me so much that I said, one day, when I can afford it, because these judges and magistrates almost bankrupted me with some of the decisions they were making with my clients who I would defend, and some of my private clients would then run off scared and I would never be paid. I was on my financial knees. But when I could afford it, I settled a big case. I used my own money to start Judicial Watch, and I did that. You know, some people said, Larry, why did you start Judicial Watch? Because I wasn't making any money at the time doing that. I said, well, you know, some people play golf. I used to be a pretty good golfer. I was a scratch golfer, as a matter of fact. I said, but, you know, I'm a lawyer now. I don't have time for that. So I'll do this as my hobby. And my hobby became my profession. Public prosecutor number one, not of the Justice Department, my alma mater, but of the American people, because the Justice Department does not represent the American people. It represents the political interests here in Washington, D.C. And as I've said in prior shows, you know, my hat's off to new Attorney General Bill Barr for at least stopping the Mueller investigation. But what did he do? It's now moved over to the House of Representatives, so it's a shell game. And we have this very vile individual who's Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who I call the Wicked Witch of the West. Of course, she's the congresswoman from the district in San Francisco, which is now completely on its knees, so to speak, actually on its back. I had to go there 3 times in the last year. I was on Market Street, and I saw all these people lying around almost dead with syringes, with feces. I was shocked. This used to be a very beautiful city, San Francisco. It's a wreck now. Trash everywhere. New York City has trash, too, I might add, but not to the extent of what you see in San Francisco with people laying in the streets dying. So she's the Wicked Witch of the left, and I say the West as well. And just look at her. Look, she just reeks hatred. Her mouth is literally dripping with hatred. She looks like a witch. I mean, she's more frightening than the witch in the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the East. And who's the Wicked Witch of the East today? That's Hillary Clinton. So you got a duo here. You got 2 witches here. One who's trying to destroy President Bush. Excuse me, Freudian slip, okay? He was not a great president either, but President Trump is. She's trying to destroy President Trump. Nancy Pelosi, the Wicked Witch of the West, and the Wicked Witch of the East, Hillary Clinton with her deep state, with the intel czars and Obama, Clapper and Brennan, with James Comey and others trying to destroy President Trump from the inside of the deep state of government. And who is it that's really standing up to these people? And this is why I keep tooting my own horn in a way, because I have to, because I don't get the exposure, because I do say the truth, because I have people on like Laura Loomer who are coming on later in the show who's fought against the corruption of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, two Muslim congresswomen who have made violent anti-Semitic comments and have taken many actions that don't support American interests here, particularly with regard to our strongest ally in the Mideast, Israel. And that's why I am who I am. I'm kind of like John Adams in a way. I'm not equating myself to him. I'm not saying I'm as great as he is, but he is one of the people that I admire, along with Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin from my native city of Philadelphia. He stood up to tyranny. They declared independence on July 4th, 1776. July 4th is coming up. They risked their lives. They pledged their fortunes and their sacred honor to form a new nation. We need to do it on our own. We can't rely on the mainstream media, which also includes Fox News, which includes public interest groups that simply get documents like my former the former group that I founded, Judicial Watch. Okay, documents are fine. Take them and frame them and hang them on the wall, okay? And then frame your interviews or send them out on YouTube, on Fox News, and say, okay, I'm great. I've got documents. But again, I say, what do you do with the documents? Do you seek to bring about justice, or are you just interested in getting documents to get your face on Fox News, as Fitton does all the time? This is something which is important. Now, Judicial Watch is no longer run by a lawyer. So Freedom Watch does what Judicial Watch used to do. Fitton's not a lawyer. And that's why we bring hard-hitting cases. So talk about the leftist media. Hannity will talk about, it's terrible. We don't have a media anymore. It's nice to talk about it. It's good to do something about it. So Freedom Watch has a leftist media strike force. We have brought lawsuits against the leftist media for Judge Roy Moore. I did that in my private capacity, by the way, not Freedom Watch's strike force, but we did it for Arpaio with regard to Freedom Watch's leftist media strike force. It was a Freudian slip, not Judicial Watch. It's Freedom Watch. For Laura Loomer, for other individuals who have taken on the media for their defamation, their lies, their smears, and their attempt to take down the President of the United States. It's unbelievable. And you're going to hear Laura Loomer later in this show as to how they tried to take her down, how she's been banned from Facebook, from Twitter, from Instagram, from other social media. We brought a lawsuit for her and for all of you out there who are being persecuted and discriminated against by the social media. Our YouTube accounts, I'll be bringing another case on that, have gone down in the last several months. They let them go up after I sued them. Well, a Trump-appointed judge, and we're going to be talking about that in the next segment, dismissed the case without prejudice. Means I can file it again. But he didn't have the guts to let this case continue. Judge McFadden. Because these Trump judges were actually appointed by President Trump at the recommendation of Don McGahn, the White House counselor who sold the president out in various interviews with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. This is the D.C. establishment. The Republican establishment is almost as bad as the Democrat establishment. They both want to take our president down, and make no mistake about it. That's a reality. So it's Freedom Watch who is actually doing the heavy lifting. And next week, we're going to be starting our citizens' grand juries. We're seeking the indictment of Robert Mueller for him trying to coerce false testimony and threaten false testimony by Jerry Corsi if he would not testify against the President of the United States. Mueller and his staff threatened to indict him. Jerry stood firm. He said, I'm not going to lie in front of my creator. I'm not taking the president down. Unlike Roger Stone, he did not lie under oath. Unlike Roger Stone, he did not threaten witnesses. But he told the truth. And we put our foot down, and we won. And as a result of that, we need to stand up to the tyranny in this country. It's not going to happen at the Justice Department. If anything happens at all, and this is the false bill of goods that's sold by Hannity and others, particularly on Fox News, there'll be a report in 2 years. The president will either be elected or he'll be defeated. I hope he'll be reelected. I don't tell people who to vote for. I just hope he'll be reelected. But the reality here is that the American people need to rise up and do it for themselves. It's time. Anybody out there with an IQ of over 50 can see that nothing has happened in 30 years since I've been doing this to the intelligentsia, to the establishments of both political parties at the high level in Washington, D.C. This place is corrupt to the core. They scratch their own back. They're putting money into their pockets. And it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're part of this club. When I ran for the U.S. Senate back in 2003 in Florida, I said, I don't want to be a member of the Senate club. I want to take a club to the U.S. Senate. And that's what we need to do. And that's what Freedom Watch is doing. So make no mistake about it. Please support Freedom Watch. We need your help. We're small. We need to grow bigger. We're your Justice Department. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. Follow what we do. See what I'm doing with regard to Cliven Bundy, who continues to be persecuted by a deep state in the Trump Justice Department. His indictment was dismissed, and those of his sons and other defendants, because of prosecutorial misconduct, because whistleblowers came forward revealing there was a kill list on his head. Yet this Justice Department, which is not in control by the president, it's out of control. It's not even controlled by the Attorney General. Took an appeal, hoping that they'll get a retrial and throw Cliven and the other defendants in prison for the rest of their lives. I'm representing Cliven in my private capacity in that case. You can go to ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org, ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org, and contribute to his defense. In addition, I represent Jerry Corsi, both with regard to Freedom Watch and privately. In the private cases which I brought, you can support Jerry Corsi at CorsiLegalDefenseFund.com. CorsiLegalDefenseFund.com. Now, with regard to Freedom Watch, we have sued Robert Mueller. We pushed back. Nobody else has sued Robert Mueller. Again, fit and go on TV. Talk about the documents you got. But have you gone up against Mueller? No, you're not, because you're not a lawyer, okay, number one. And number two, your lawyers don't have real trial experience. You don't have really good trial lawyers over there. You got these young kids for the most part. Okay, get FOIA documents. That's good. I get FOIA documents too. But we want justice. We don't need more documents. Take the documents where the sun don't shine, okay? Because we got enough documents. So our citizens' grand juries are moving ahead to indict these criminals, whether it's Mueller, whether it's Comey, whether it's Rosenstein, whether it's the Lovebirds, whether it's Bruce Orr, whether it's Brennan, whether it's Clapper, the whole lot of them. So watch what we do. We're getting rolling, and it's substantial. So, again, I'll be right back with the second segment. We're going to talk about judges because, see, there's a misperception here that we now have great judges on the bench simply because some were appointed by President Trump. And he was deceived by people that put the names of these judges in front of him, in large part. I'll be right back.
Dangerous.
Don't here use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor.
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm going to do a seminar sometime this fall. Not just myself, but other people who have been trial lawyers for a number of years. I've been a trial lawyer for 42 years, going on 43. I've been in front of these federal judges. I've been in front of state judges. I can tell you in particular with the federal judges, they wear their politics on their sleeve. I can almost judge with 100% certainty, based on who appointed a judge, which president, how they're going to rule in a particular case. The president, I'm talking about Donald Trump, has lost virtually every single lower court decision, whether it's on immigration or anything else, with lower court, Clinton, and Obama judges. I didn't need to even see the decision to find out exactly who the judge was. I mean, I knew, and you know. And when the president has made statements that judges are political, like the judge in California who is a member of La Raza, Hispanic separatist group. You know, I like Latin people, but I don't like people that are racist. This judge was a member of a group that's racist against people who aren't Latino. When he makes a statement that he thinks he's prejudiced, he's vilified by the leftist fake news media for making that statement. But that's a reality. Now, the president finally got a good decision this week in a case, a wishy-washy decision. It'll probably be overturned by the D.C. Court of Appeals, by the D.C. Circuit, rather, the federal appellate circuit, because they're mostly leftists up there and mostly Clinton-Obama appointees. But I could tell who made that decision at the time. It was a Trump-appointed judge. But you know what? That was a rare decision because even the Trump-appointed judges are Washington Republican establishment. How did these judges get to become judges? Generally speaking, judges through political patronage. And in fact, some judges even donate a lot of money to get their position. I have a judge on a case that donated $34,000. His former law firm, the law firm of, not coincidentally, Robert Mueller, WilmerHale, also donated money. Huge amounts of money. Not coincidentally, he was appointed by Obama to the bench. I'm challenging a decision he recently made, which had a political element to it. Not a surprise. these judges, in effect, by their appointments. So I want the American people to understand this. I'm looking at an article right now written by the Washington Examiner in its weekly publication. Now, don't be fooled by the Washington Examiner either. The Washington Examiner is a Republican establishment publication. It's not like some other publications that are much bolder. WorldNet Daily, I write for WorldNet Daily. I have a column coming out this weekend. They kowtow to the Republican establishment. So their lead article is Trump's Judges, Well-Oiled Machine Reshapes Judiciary. Fred Barnes. Now, I like Fred. I've known Fred for a long time, but he's Washington establishment. Fred is deluded. I don't know what Fred's been smoking. I mean, they've legalized marijuana here in the District of Columbia, so I guess maybe he's toking away. Because the Trump judges, my experience so far, they have no guts. Most of them, frankly, are cowards. They're part of that Washington establishment. They want to go to the parties in Georgetown. They want to be part of the crowd here. They're not going to make strong decisions. They're not going to stand up for the American people. They're marinated in the corruption of Washington, D.C., the bipartisan corruption, which allows for money to be stuffed in the pockets of both political parties. And I want people to understand that. We need a better way to select judges. So I've talked about this in prior shows. We are going to be doing a seminar this fall. I'm going to try to get it onto C-SPAN and other places because this is a problem. Without judges, they are, in theory, our most important public servants. There are some good ones, like Judge Royce Lambert of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. My friend, who now is retired, Judge Stanley Sporkin, Judge N. Sanders Sauls, who decided the Gore v. Bush election challenge in 2000. Maybe there's a handful in 42 years that have had the guts to do what needs to be done. But most of these judges are political hacks, and that's a reality. Mark Levin talks about that. He understands what's going on. But very few people will actually address the problem in the judiciary. And without judges who are independent, without judges who leave their politics at the door, without judges who remove their personal prejudices from their decision-making, the American people are left defenseless. And what happened? In 1776, we signed the Declaration of Independence. We waged a revolution. And the primary reason for that was that the King George III, took our justice system back to the Court of St. James, took it away from us. We don't have a justice system today. We're headed for revolution. And that's what I'm trying to stave off peacefully and legally. But if you don't have judges that will protect the American people, that will make rational, non-political decisions, then we are left to the despots like Nancy Pelosi, like Gerald Nadler, like Adam Schiff, like the others on Capitol Hill. They're going to ram things down our throats. We're left to the whims of criminals in our society. I'll be right back with our next segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman with Laura Loomer.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm here with my special friend and colleague, as well as my client, Laura Loomer. She's become quite famous for taking on the rich and powerful, taking on interests that no one else will take on, similar to yours truly, of course. I have a number of clients like that. That's why I gravitate to them. That's why they're my friends. That's why I represent them, because they need to be heard in this society, and they need to bring about justice. And, of course, Laura Loomer was at the forefront of uncovering the corruption and the criminality of Ilhan Omar, and also the vehement anti-Semitism of Rashida Tlaib and others. She's a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. We believe in Israel. We don't believe that Palestinians have a right to the land, either legally or with regard to the Bible. I'm sorry, that's the way we feel. And that's a reality. I mean, they deserve to live in peace. They can go to Jordan. They can go wherever they want. But they forfeited their right to Israel after several wars where they sought to annihilate the Jewish people and the Jewish state. That's the way it is. That's the way war works. Now, I want to introduce you to Laura Loomer, and I want her to be able to tell you what it is she uncovered with regard to Ilhan Omar, because Ilhan Omar is in some hot water with Minnesota election authorities this week. and she was fined. She had to give money back. Laura's the one who uncovered that in her excellent journalism, and she is a journalist. Welcome to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, Laura.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
Tell us, how it is you came about to uncover this corruption by Representative Ilhan Omar, this vehement anti-Semite from Minnesota.
The thing about it is the media is completely corrupt, and the establishment media has no interest in preventing these people like Ilhan Omar from getting into office because they view it as a way to kill their ratings, right? So Fox News and CNN are getting much more ratings now talking about Ilhan Omar with the controversy she's embroiled in than they would have if she would have been disqualified for all of these things that we already knew about Ilhan Omar that are now coming to light. The most recent one is the fact that Ilhan Omar violated campaign finance rules, and she used her campaign funds to pay a divorce attorney to divorce her brother. So, you and I both know this. I was on the ground in Minnesota last year while Ilhan Omar was still a candidate, and I was helping to expose the fact that she married her brother, okay? And there's a widespread question and controversy surrounding her immigration status and whether she committed immigration fraud, student loan fraud, by engaging in a fake sham marriage with her brother, right? So the thing is you obviously cannot use your campaign funds to pay for your divorce from your brother, and incest is illegal in the United States of America. So when I was in Minnesota on the ground, I went to one of Ilhan Omar's campaign events. It was actually a joint campaign event with Rashida Tlaib, her partner in crime. And this was before they were even elected to Congress, right? This is when they were still candidates, and the media had all the power in the world to shine a light on their insidious behavior and actions. And when I was at this event, I confronted Ilhan Omar on camera, and I asked her about marrying her brother. I asked her why she's a Jew hater. I asked her about her ties to terrorist organizations and her support of ISIS. I asked her why, she used her campaign funds to pay for her divorce from her lawyer. And when I did this, she was standing next to Rashida Tlaib. And when I tried to question Rashida Tlaib as well, Rashida actually physically assaulted me, and she tried to steal my phone and break it. And it's all on video. I filed a police report. This was documented, but of course the media didn't really talk about it much. But now we're seeing, right, the media wants to come in and act like they're the savior here, stealing my journalism, acting as if this is a new story, when in reality, if you watch my video and you look at my reports, this was actually published back in August of last year, okay, so almost a year ago, and it's not new. And since then, I've been permanently banned on every single social media platform. In November, I was permanently banned on Twitter for calling Ilhan Omar anti-Jewish, something that is entirely true, right? So, I think people need to understand that the media truly is the enemy of the people, like President Donald Trump says. And when stories like this pop up and you see the evidence in terms of my timestamps from last year, you see that they are intentionally suppressing information about terror-tied, fraudulent candidates, Muslim operatives, who are now serving on our Foreign Affairs Committee, probably giving our classified information to terrorist organization and undermining what it means to be an American, and undermining our national security and also the prestige that was once associated with being an elected member of Congress.
Well, you're absolutely right, Laura, and it's not Islamophobic if you're raising questions and raising issues. CNN, MSNBC, they're in the face of President Donald Trump all the time. They're not banned from YouTube. They're not banned from other entities like Facebook or Twitter or whatever. But when you ask legitimate questions to a Muslim congresswoman and ask her if she has ties to CARE, and CARE was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation criminal prosecution some years ago in Dallas, Texas, and is alleged by the U.S. government to have terrorist ties, those are legitimate questions. You shouldn't be banned from doing that. And that's why you have to fight back, and that's why we are fighting back. We have an antitrust lawsuit against the social media companies. You're one of the leading plaintiffs in that. I am as well. Freedom Watch is. Others are welcome because it's a class action. It's currently up on appeal. We had, believe it or not, a Trump judge dismiss it without prejudice. We're going to be talking about judges later in this show and earlier in this show because it's a big issue right now. They're very partisan. They're scared of their shadow. Trump judges are not what they're cracked up to be. Unfortunately, the president rubber-stamped what was handed to him by Don McGahn who sold the president out in interviews with Special Counsel Robert Mueller, falsely, I believe. But you're fighting back, and we're going to be bringing a defamation lawsuit against Facebook, who called you dangerous, and against others like NPR and other entities which called you a white supremacist. You're not a white supremacist just simply because you are questioning the conduct. The illegal conduct is alleged of Representative Ilhan Omar and of the other Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, both of whom are Muslim, both of whom are vehement anti-Semites, both of whom hate Israel, both of whom have been trashing the United States in public since they took office.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, I think it's really dangerous when you have a mainstream media or media elite that cannot be trusted. And not only are they intentionally suppressing misinformation that the public needs to know about, but they're also smearing people who are actually doing the hard work and investigating. And I think it's problematic when you have media companies like CNN working alongside, right, with the far left tech industry and tech companies like Twitter and Facebook and these other, social media giants to ban people who they don't like, right? We saw it this week with Vox media journalists targeting conservatives on YouTube. We saw it with the way that CNN colluded with Twitter and Facebook to get Alex Jones and InfoWars banned. And this is a very dangerous path that we're going down, because when you look at what the media is supposed to represent, it's the fact that it is a fourth estate. It's supposed to be a watchdog for the people, right? We have totally strayed away from what the institution of the fourth estate was intended to be and what it is supposed to be. It's done, it's had a total facelift.
Well, let me say this, Laura, too, there's a distinction between you and Alex Jones and InfoWars. I used to be friendly with Alex Jones and InfoWars. I got issues with them now with regard to their defaming Jerry Corsi and me on behalf of Roger Stone. So, I'm not friendly with them anymore, and I'll be honest, they're not honest people. And that's the difference between you and InfoWars. What you've said is true. And, if it's true, how can you take issue with it? And anyway, an independent entity is not to judge whether it's true or not. No one judges whether Jim Acosta on CNN, what he's saying is true, or Don Lemon, who says that he's not a liberal. If you believe that, I guess he's also not black. It's just unbelievable what goes on out there. But yet they have to go after you. And I want to point out that we are starting citizens' grand juries next week, and we're going to have follow-up citizens' grand juries in Florida, and you're going to be appearing, and we're going to be seeking an indictment against Ilhan Omar for the corruption and the crimes and the criminality. And we're going to let a grand jury of neutral people without politics on their sleeve determine whether or not the people should indict Ilhan Omar. Because you know what? The federal government has no guts, and I filed a complaint with the Department of Homeland Security. They did nothing. I wanted her investigated for immigration fraud, possibly deported if it proved to be true with regard to due process rights in a hearing. And when they did nothing, I then filed a court case to force them to do it. And see, and this is the problem. The president is a great man. I support him. He's got a good heart, and he's doing the right thing. But the people underneath him at these agencies, it's still the deep state. It's still controlled by people who are not loyal to him or the American people. And therefore, we need to do it ourselves through citizens' grand juries, peacefully and legally. And you're going to be a material witness in that citizens' grand jury.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this is important because, see, my clients, whether it's Laura Loomer, whether it's Judge Roy Moore, Sheriff Arpaio, whether it's Laurie Loon, who was destroyed by people at Fox News, and it continue to be, we have a lawsuit for her too, one of the women who was the most sexually harassed by Roger Ailes, and now the head of Fox News lies about it, Suzanne Scott, and defames her. These people, and there are many, many other clients that I have just like this, is that they deserve representation, they deserve to be respected, they deserve to tell the truth. I'm tired of watching Fox News and listening to, what's politically correct. For a long time, you couldn't even say Obama was Muslim, and that helps explain why he didn't like Israel and why, he did so many things to harm the Jewish people. So I thank you, Laura. We're going to have you back again. They will see you at the citizens' grand juries, which will be live streamed. And we appreciate everything that you do. God bless you. Stay safe and continue to do what you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I want to thank Laura Loomer for coming on our show. She's a brave lady. We need more Laura Loomers in this world. She's not dangerous. She's not a white supremacist. I don't care how many times my clients are smeared. I will fight back on their behalf, and I'll fight back for the American people. But, there's an old adage that when a lawyer is moving his lips, he's lying, okay? I trust that I'm not one of them. There are very few lawyers, frankly, in this country that play it straight, and that I'm the anti-lawyer. That's why I started Judicial Watch. That's why I ran for the U.S. Senate. That's why I started Freedom Watch. I am the anti-lawyer because the big problem that we have in our society today is, in fact, the legal system. Whether it's judges, whether it's lawyers, we don't have a legal system that represents the interests of the American people against the tyranny of the rest of the government and the tyranny in our own society. But I'll tell you another example of where the government has been lying. It's with regard to UFOs, unidentified flying objects. Every country in the world, major country, whether it's Great Britain, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's our European allies, admit that UFOs do exist. The United States has hidden this for years. They don't want to confront the issue. And we are at Freedom Watch exploring that issue right now. There have been too many sightings lately by Navy pilots, by Air Force pilots. We have film. If you go back decades, if you see the pictures that have been taken of UFOs, they're all very similar. Similar device, similar spacecraft, or whatever it may be. The government to this day continues to hide it. A couple years ago, I went to the premiere of a film called Unacknowledged by Stephen Greer, who's perhaps the world's expert in unidentified flying objects. And a number of whistleblowers came forward to confirm that they do exist. Now, I got to tell you a story, and I've told you this before. When I was visiting Clive and Bundy in the last few years, one day I walked out of the prison. I was walking with a prison guard at the time. He knew who I was. I had been to see Clive over 30 times. And I joked with him. I said, boy, this place is more secure than Alcatraz. Alcatraz, of course, has been put into mothballs. I said, but instead of San Francisco Bay, you've got a desert here with rattlesnakes. And the prison guard said to me, Mr. Klayman, I'm not worried about the rattlesnakes, but I see UFOs every night. This is Area 51. It has been reported that the crash in Roswell of an alien spacecraft where there were bodies of aliens were taken to Area 51, put in cold storage, and that, in fact, we analyzed the technology of the spacecraft. And this is something Stephen Greer has written about, and his movie talks about it. Do we have anti-gravitational technology such that we can even produce UFOs? So either these are alien spacecraft or it's something that the government has produced but they're not telling us about. I believe that it's probably alien spacecraft, and I believe these people are not harmful to us. They're peaceful. They've been here for a very long time, and they want to see exactly what's going on, and therefore we're going to be investigating this, so stay tuned.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Fellow Americans, you heard what I had to say today. I'm kind of agitated. I guess I get more agitated when I come to Washington, D.C., because I just see how corrupt this place is top to bottom. Frankly, gives me a sick feeling in my stomach. I've been fighting for 30 years to bring about some justice in this city and throughout the United States. The Justice Department, to use the term loosely, is not going to do it. Bill Barr, the current Attorney General, was good. He shut down the Mueller investigation. Now it's moved over to the House of Representatives. So what did he accomplish? It's not his fault that we have the Wicked Witch of the West, Nancy Pelosi, wanting to throw the president in prison, much less impeach him. Or we have these other characters up there, these vile people like Schiff and Nadler and Maxine Waters and Schumer over in the Senate. I mean, dripping hatred towards the president. It's not his fault that we have judges who have no guts. Either they're political partisans of Obama and Clinton, or they're Trump-appointed judges, which he appointed not knowing that these people were establishment hacks that aren't going to stand up for him, only on a rare occasion like this week. But we need to ourselves look inward. I get up every single morning, I've said that before, and I say to myself, what can we do to save the vision of our founding fathers? What can we do to save this republic? What can we do to honor the future of our generations and make sure that they're preserved? Because it's slipping away really quickly. And frankly, other than my hard-hitting lawsuits, which I bring about, and I hope that I get a good judge, I hope I draw a judge like Judge Royce Lamberth or others on a case who actually will do something. The citizens' grand jury is the only means to do it peacefully and legally. I don't want to see violence in the streets. I don't want to see bloodshed. Jefferson predicted that. He said it was going to happen. He said we would go downhill. We'd have a revolution every other generation. He even advocated spilling blood. I don't. What I want to see is the American people rise up. We have the right to commission grand juries. Justice Antonin Scalia said the grand jury belongs to the American people. In the Old West, the American people had to mete out justice for themselves. We didn't have a Justice Department until 1870. And that's what we're seeking to do at Freedom Watch. And we're starting those citizens' grand juries next week. Now, we need your help. It's expensive. I'm going to be doing them all around the country. We're going to be coming to your hometown or at least an area near you. And I want the American people to know that once we get convictions in trials, we're going to have citizens' trials. We will seek to enforce those convictions. We will ask the president to mete out the sentences. If he doesn't, we'll seek to enforce them peacefully and legally. But if nothing else, we're educating the American people. We're educating millennials. You know, most millennials have a vocabulary less than my dog, okay? They need to understand exactly what their rights are in this country. They don't even know who the president was when we founded our nation, generally speaking. I mean, they know where to find their cell phone. But we need to educate the younger people, and there are a lot of good ones too, but they're not the majority. They're generally uneducated. So whatever happens, support our citizens' grand juries. We need to bring about justice ourselves. We need to wage a peaceful and legal revolution. We need to say, forget about documents. We've got documents. You get documents, out of our wazoo. But now we need justice, and it's time, because if we don't get justice, we are going to have a violent revolution, which I don't want to see. There are enough people in this country that are willing to wage it. Just this week, and I'm not saying they're violent, the motorcyclists that come into D.C. on Memorial Day, who were shut out this year through a D.C. establishment, which is Democrat and very leftist, rolling thunder. They said if President Trump gets impeached, we're coming into D.C. We're going to flood D.C. And I'm not saying they're going to commit violence, but I'll tell you something. These are ex-vets. They're not going to take it laying down. And they know how much the Democrats besmirch the military, besmirch national security, and they know how much they are being trashed these days because they do support the president. And this is the trouble. So therefore, we need to use peaceful and legal means to prevent violence. And therefore, please support Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Support the defense of Cliven Bundy at clivenbundydefensefund.org. Support the defense and some of the actions of Dr. Jerry Corsi at CorsiLegalDefenseFund.com, because you need to rise up. We can't look to our so-called Justice Department to do it for ourselves. Our founding fathers did not look to the Ministry of Justice in England to bring about justice in the years leading up to the revolution. They did it themselves. And if we don't do it ourselves, soon we will not have a country. So God bless you. God bless America. God save America. And I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.